Hey, all right. How's it going? I'm Grant, you're you. This is the Doodle Review, and I have a problem. Not just that I can't listen to music without putting my thoughts on it all over YouTube, but that I occasionally overspend a little bit on vinyl. Today's episode, I'm going to walk you through my latest haul. I went to Flashback Records in Shoreditch. Flashback was actually local to my office, so I would often find myself going there on stressful days, maybe on quiet days, well, days that ended with an AY. We recently moved office, so I had to go in there and have like one, what could be my last trawl for a very long time. And I thought I would share with you what I got. My normal approach when I go to a record store is like I have a list that I've been keeping for a long time of new releases. And this is now 5 years long of just new albums that have come out that I've liked. And the cool thing about having such a long list, if you're a nerd like me, is that over time, stuff that I've been looking for from like 2020, 2021, occasionally this comes up in a bit of a sale. So you can kind of chip away at it kind of backwards going up. So anyway, when I go to a record store, normally I'm like trawling through some of the newer stuff. Flashback is cool because it's one of those stores that has a good overall stock of new stuff coming in, but it has a massive archive section. It might be my favorite record store in London. Yeah, big up Flashback. This particular time when I went in, I went through all of the new stuff, and I wasn't really in there with the intention. Well, I kind of said to myself before, I was like, I can't really be spending money on records if it's not going to chip away at my list. So I didn't find anything, and I actually nearly left without buying anything. But then a little gem, an old record caught my eye, pretty cheap, and I was like, fuck it, Flashback, I'm in. You got me. Take my money. So that sent me off on a tangent of just looking out for stuff that was maybe from artists that I like, that I don't have in the collection, artists that I've heard about, just things that I wanted to take a chance on. And let's go through it. I'm going to talk you through what I got, put them on, give you my reactions, my thoughts on the album, make sure that they work all right, and then we'll go through it from there. So first up on my list, I got a nice stack. First up on the list is Rolling Stones Black and Blue. So I picked this up for £6. This is, it says Australia on it, so maybe it's like an Australian pressing. The cover was in good nick. I actually gave everything a look through before I bought it just to make sure that it weren't overly scratched. Yeah, let's put it on and then I'll tell you what I think. Okay, so Black and Blue, was making some notes while I was listening. For me, this is obviously I picked this up because this is one in the Stones catalog that I don't have. I'm a big Stones fan, but I don't. My record collection is lacking in that department. I think the general consensus on the canon is like Exile on Main Street, huge high point. Then it kind of falls off a little bit, and then Some Girls is the peak again. This is between Exile and Some Girls. I really like it. I like what I've heard. I think, the thing with the Stones is, at least I think, is that, yes, they have their classics, untouchables, and then there'll be some people that just don't really want to fuck with the other stuff, but they're one of those rare bands where they just sound good. A couple of tracks here, Hot Stuff, and that one in particular has just got such a cool groove. It's just great to hear them just rocking this groove, even if the song from a melodic standpoint, from a pop sensibility standpoint, it's not hitting you over the head. It's not going to be one that people are like, oh yeah, that's the one. It's not got that mainstream appeal, but they just sound good when they're just rocking in this groove. This one's got like a funk kind of 70s New York thing to it. So it definitely feels like a precursor to where they go on Some Girls with the disco stuff. I really love the track Hey Negrita. That has just got one of the coolest riffs. And Stones aren't necessarily like a band for super unique weird riffs, but this is kind of in that category. It's pretty cool. Um, I think that the hit from this one is "Fool to Cry," which I can see why. It's catchy. It's a bit of a slow one, which was unusual for them in terms of what ones would be picked as the hit. I don't know if the record company would have been that happy with this album on the basis that "Fool to Cry" is kind of like your only one that you could pick as a single. Nonetheless, from the looks of Wikipedia, it did the business. It became a top 10 hit in a lot of places. The low point for me, Cherry O Baby. You know, I know the Stones and Keith Richards in particular have a very soft spot for reggae, and I love that. I love that appreciation that they have, but it's when they start kind of doing a bit of a Jamaican voice. And, you know, I suppose it makes sense for Jagger, right? He does this whole American put on voice throughout the whole catalogue to such an extent that it would be weird if he didn't do it now. You know, it's odd in general, but it is just Jagger. So it kind of makes sense that they do a reggae tune and he affects this kind of Jamaican accent, but I don't know, man. Like, yeah, I love the Police, but even I still struggle with Sting doing that. So yeah, anyway, the Stones doing reggae, not my thing. But look, £6. It plays perfectly. Happy with that one. Next on the list, and keeping with the Stones vibe, was Main Offender. And this is Keith Richards' first solo record. I've heard this a couple of times in passing, but I've never given it too much of a listen. But yeah, I'm a Stones fan. I'm especially a Keith fan. And I love the relationship that he's had, the whole band has had, but specifically with Steve Jordan, who is obviously now their full-time drummer after the passing of Watts. But yeah, I wanted to give this one a listen for £12. You can't really say wrong. What I always find fun about this is Waddy Wachtel is in Keith Richards' band here, and he is the guitarist who I most associate with Stevie Nicks doing like Edge of 17. I think he's been around a lot, but yeah, it's cool that he's on here. Let's put it on, give it a listen. Okay, so Keith Richards, Main Offender. It's pretty fucking cool, man. I mean, Keith is one of my favorites of the classic rock era anyway, for many reasons. Looking at the liner notes, him and Steve Jordan wrote most of the Steve Jordan's as a co-writer on most of those, which is cool. I didn't realize that they collaborated so intensely so long ago. This was 1992. I love the production of this record. It is 1992, but it does feel like it picks up some cues from the 80s. I think specifically of that pumping bass on 999 just has like a bit of that kind of almost that ZZ Top in their pop heyday, like the bum, 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 which I find interesting. And the whole record has a bit of a Dire Straits thing. Wicked as it seems, snare sound is killer. Drums are amazing on this in general. Love that guitar tone, so good. Words, Hate It When You Leave, I just wanted to call out because that's a great example of Richard's voice just being great. And I've always loved the ones that he sings it anyway. He can't always pull it off live in the way that he does in the studio, but yeah, he's got that grit and kind of almost like a bit of soul to him that I think is cool. Words of Wonder, though, another reggae track. And, you know, I know that he kind of spent a lot of time in Jamaica, and just like the blues, he maybe has a bit of buy-in from people that are legit from that scene. You know, he isn't just they didn't just see him as a white boy trying it on, but at the same time he sounds like a white boy trying it on. I don't know, it just just lose the accents, man. Like I can appreciate wanting to play reggae, but it's just we're in a different time. We're in a different time now. Okay, so very happy with that purchase. 12 quid. You could see as well. It was like the red pressing of that. I don't know if that was if that means it's one of the recent re-releases or an earlier version, but yeah, pretty stoked with that. The next one I picked up, Rick Ocasek Beatitude for £4. So this is definitely like a bit of a bargain bucket dig. And I have no expectations on this one when I picked it up. The thing that drew me to it is that the cars are great. Rick Ocasek was in the cars. He's the guitarist in the cars. I think he produced their stuff, but if not, he at least went on to be a producer. He produced for Weezer. He produced for the Cribs. And anyway, what drew me to this is that I have this weird romantic thing about these odd solo albums from artists in the 70s and 80s that we've just kind of forgotten about. I don't know. I have this romantic notion that there might be a hidden gem there. And most of the time I'm wrong, because if it was really that great, you would know about it. But nonetheless, let's stick it on, see what it's like. All right, so Rick Ocasek. This album is 80s through and through for, I was going to say for better or worse, but it is mainly worse. I can't say that I would hugely recommend this. It's definitely not the hidden gem that I, romanticized, but it has some redeeming moments. There's a track called Prove that combines this synth pop aspect to it with kind of a bit of a Bowie-esque station to station vibe. Now, this I think was way after that. This is 82. And because of that, it's, this is like, it's not full bore 80s stuff, but you've got the Lynn drums are a massive part of the sound of this, which is obviously, that famous drum machine that Prince uses a lot of. There's huge gated drums in a lot of this, and kind of any opportunity to make something digital they have done, which immediately carbon dates this record. Which would, I mean, look, it's not necessarily the bad thing in and of itself. I think for me, it's just that a lot of the songs aren't really that great. Prove is my definite highlight. That has got like I said, a Bowie-esque kind of dark funk aspect to it, with kind of a cheesy chorus. You don't have to prove a thing. But, I mean, sometimes I can be down for that. I quite enjoyed it. There's another track later on called Take a Walk, which would be cool if more of the album was like this, I think, because it's like more on the avant-garde side of things. There's like all of these arcade synth sort of tones. It's a little bit spoken word. It reminds me of like Iggy Pop's Mass Production, of The Idiot, which might well have been a bit of an influence here. I feel like Rick Ocasek is definitely pulling, at least in some part, from Bowie, and I would expect, being probably a man of taste, that he probably is aware of The Idiot and Lust for Life. So yeah, a bit of a curiosity. £4. I couldn't really say much against it. It was worth a try, and yeah, I'll at least go back to a couple of the tracks on here for sure. Okay, let's take it on to our next one. Randy Newman, Little Criminals. Randy Newman is an artist that, being a 90s baby, I mainly associate with Toy Story and You Got a Friend in Me. But I have, in later years, as I've gotten more and more into music, come to find and be aware that he's well revered in I think more so in America, from the sounds of it, in the same way that like Billy Joel is huge over there and maybe not so much here. It feels like Randy Newman has a little bit of that, but people that kind of know what they're talking about often cite Mr. Newman as a credible artist to go back to in the kind of singer-songwriter oeuvre. So I thought I'd pick this up. It was £8, and I believe Little Criminals is potentially his um, big one, his classic one. So let's put it on. Okay, well, this is probably the best album that I picked up in that haul. I think this is a classic. It's one of those albums where you immediately put it on and you're like, oh, fuck, yeah, this is kind of amazing and pretty timeless. It starts with the track called Short People, where Mr. Newman says, where is it? Short people got no reason to live. They got little hands and little eyes. They walk around telling great big lies. They got little noses and tiny little teeth. They wear platform shoes on their nasty little feet. Well, I don't want no short people. Don't want no short people around here. Um, it's just, I love it because it's just, yeah. Imagine being an artist now and putting out a track like that. I feel comfortable saying that you know, does he really hate short people? Do I really care? As a man of pretty short stature myself, I'll give him a pass. I think it would be easy, and certainly I did from an outsider's perspective, to think Randy Newman, he's a singer songwriter on the piano, that's his thing. But this has got like a rock and roll swing to it. Kind of reminds me, I guess, in the same way that you could say the same thing about Elton John, but he's got rock bangers in his catalog. It's the title track, Little Criminals, has a proper swing to it, a proper groove, which is cool. I was going through the liner notes and like, yeah, I was just talking about Waddy Wachtel on the Richards album. Here he is on Little Criminals, contributing some guitar here and there. And then there was one track where I was like, I recognize these backing vocals, and it was Rider in the Rain. And just looking at the liner notes there, it turns out that like Don Henley and Glenn Frey are on this album as well, of the Eagles, which is why they sounded so familiar. So the album, in terms of production, instrumentally, is a bit of a smorgasbord of 70s rock legends. You've got the Eagles, you've got Waddy Wachtel there, you've got Jim Keltner on the drums. This is a cool album. I love it. I'm really into it. And I can see inspiration. Weirdly, I was thinking of Mini Mansions a lot when I was listening to this, which, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Randy Newman was like on their list of potential influences from back in the day. Okay, so last one in our haul. I think the last one, no, second to last one, was this from EMA. I forgot about this record. I really enjoyed it in 2014 when it came out. Hadn't thought about it since. I moved from Spotify to Apple Music in like 2015 and lost loads of stuff in the process. So this one actually isn't in my library. But I remember really enjoying it at the time. And I found this for £5 in a coloured vinyl edition. So we're going to see what that's. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So that has taken me right back to 10 years ago. I was working in a, yeah, for like a, I don't know, it's not worth going into, no one cares, but I basically had Spotify on my computer at my desk and was listening to loads of new music, and I remember just really loving this record, and particularly the track 3 Jane. I mean, what happened to EMA? What happened to her? I kind of she fell off my radar, but I remember really loving this record. One thing that's interesting is that certain things feel a little dated, I guess, of the time. You know, on the front cover, it's a fucking cool cover, don't get me wrong, but you see it more clearly on the back that she's wearing an Oculus, which, you know, just, it's obviously a VR headset, which is, you know, still isn't a thing, still hasn't taken off. You know, stop trying to make fetch happen. But on the back it clearly says Oculus, which is obviously just kind of like, you know, now that's a Facebook owned company. And the track 3 Jane, she says the lyrics, I blew my soul out over the interwebs. And it feels very dramatic, very cool, but you wouldn't necessarily say that now. But nonetheless, really cool album. I'm glad that I got it. £5 as well. Fucking great. Okay, so let's look at the last one. Again, adding something to my collection from an artist that I love, that I'm trying to build out my catalogue of. This is Prince's Love Sexy record. I found it for £12. Not very familiar with this one at all. Let's give it a listen. Cool. So this was Prince's album that came out between Sign of the Times and his soundtrack to Batman. It came on the heels of a cancelled album, the Black Album, which is kind of legendary among fans, which I think you can get now. He recorded this apparently in 7 weeks. I'm not familiar with any of the stuff on this one, and I really like it, but I can see why, having read about it, that this one is critically acclaimed but not very like commercially successful. And I think it's because like there's just really cool funk jams on it, but there's not much in the way of like pop hooks in the same way that Sign of the Times, Purple Rain, or 1999 had on them, despite, you know, tracks like Love Sexy itself really feeling of a piece with the track 1999. That even feels like it's kind of doing the same synth thing. But all of those tracks are really fun. It has a whole vibe like it's a party. It's just a lot of groove and a lot of funk without necessarily like big choruses or big memorable choruses, I should say. My favorite track is Anesthesia, which has got this really dark vibe to it. And those are probably my favorite tracks on the album. There's another one later on that has a bit of a darker sensibility as well. And I think those grittier, edgier ones are really cool. This is definitely one that I'm going to have to kind of go back and educate myself on more. I obviously love Prince. There's so much in his catalog that I don't know, and this is one of them. But yeah, I'm glad that I picked it up. Seems like a good copy. So yeah, again, this is the whole thing that I got from Flashback. I got what, 6, 7, 8 records, 42 quid, which is really good going. All of them sound great. I think the Little Criminals one is mostly crackly, so it's probably like the one in the worst condition. But on the other hand, it's introduced me to a really great album. I think the only one I picked up that I'm maybe a bit iffy on, which was the bit of a wild card anyway, is the Rick Ocasek one. But even that's got some standout moments. I might make a playlist of like all of the kind of tracks that I dig from all of these ones and link it down below if anyone gives a fuck. But yeah, that's it. That's my haul from Flashback Records. Let me know if you know any of these albums, if you've given them a shot. Tell me what you think in the comments below. And that's it. Take care. Mind how you go. Cheers, mate. Bye.